puzzle in the universe, a collection of worlds within worlds, each one a network of relationships and connections between all their living parts, leading to the diverse and complex world we live in. And at the heart of many of these worlds is a very special group of animals, the insects, and their close relatives, the arachnids and crustaceans, classed together as the arthropods. Together they account for 80% of all animal species on our planet. In these three specials, we're going to explore the connections and relationships that they have with us, our planet, and with each other. Ultimately, to understand how this group hold the key to life itself inside nature's microworlds. Arthropods are the most abundant and diverse group of animals in the world. They inhabit every continent and every ocean. From the harsh climate of Antarctica to the driest of deserts around the equator. From the luscious jungles to the highest mountain peaks. There are an estimated 10 million species, more than all the other animal groups combined. But what is the secret of their success? What is the single key to their global domination? To understand this, we need to unpick one by one the factors that influence the lives of arthropods. First, we need to understand what arthropods are and where they came from. And to do that, we must travel to Delaware Bay on the east coast of America. "400 million years ago, the first land animals pulled themselves out of the sea. They were the ancestors of the arthropods who dominate our planet today. And each spring, on the highest tides of the full and new moons, a similar spectacle still occurs. These are horseshoe crabs, some of the most primitive arthropods alive today. They're here to breed. The males are 2/3 the size of their mates and cluster along the water's edge as the females arrive. Clinging to the female's shell, he's pulled up the beach, fertilizing her eggs as she lays. For these crabs, breeding on land is only possible because of the arthropod blueprint. Their basic body plan is the same as all arthropods. A hard exoskeleton, segmented body, and jointed legs. A body plan that's persisted unchanged for 400 million years. A body plan as adaptable as it is simple. The key design feature is no doubt the exoskeleton. A hard external skeleton, largely made of chitin, that provides protection, support for muscles, but most importantly, prevents water loss from the body. The ability of the exoskeleton to retain water is the factor that allows these crabs to lay their eggs on land, and ultimately allowed arthropods to be the first animals to colonize the land. But even this master of design, the exoskeleton, has a weakness. How do you grow inside a suit of armor? To see that, we must travel 400 miles south to a freshwater microworld in South Carolina. This crayfish is getting ready to transform, something all arthropods must do to increase their size. In preparation, he withdraws calcium from his shell and stores it in little white tablets on the side of his head. His hard exoskeleton then splits, and the larger, soft-bodied crayfish emerges. It can take up to a few days for the new exoskeleton to fully harden, and before this occurs, the crayfish is vulnerable. This queen snake is on a hunt for a meal. The hardened armor of the crayfish is too much for her, but she can detect the chemicals given off by the soft body of a freshly molted crayfish, and knows this is her chance. As soft as a donut, this crayfish provides a hearty meal. So the exoskeleton, vital to their success, also leaves them vulnerable. And it has another significant defining effect on all arthropods. It restricts their size. This is the largest terrestrial arthropod, the coconut crab. This crab will molt each year and can live until he's 60, yet is still no larger than a newborn baby. If you must transform every time you need to grow, then there's a limit to how big you can get. But this apparent size disadvantage can be seen as an asset. It opens up a whole new world for the arthropods. And to see how, we must travel to the Flow Country in Scotland. This is the fairy wasp, a quarter of a millimetre long. They spend nearly all their lives underwater. She is one of the smallest known arthropods alive on the planet, and almost invisible to the naked eye. She makes a tiny water flea look like a giant. This female is looking for a very specific place to lay her eggs. She positions her microscopic ovipositor to pierce into the stem of a plant, where the eggs of a water beetle have been laid. She deposits up to 100 eggs inside a single beetle egg. When the young hatch, they have a ready source of food, the water beetle's undeveloped young. It's only the size of this wasp that opens up this niche for her to exploit. In fact, the arthropod's diminutive size gives them a real trump card in the game of life. It allows them to exploit microhabitats, be it an egg, a gall on an oak tree, or a single leaf. The wealth of habitats and niches available to them is virtually infinite. But being small also makes them vulnerable. Their size and abundance makes them an ideal food source for a whole host of other animals. Including the biggest animal to have ever lived. The blue whale. So if size is not the ultimate key to their success, we must look elsewhere and examine why the diversity of arthropods has evolved so much faster than in all other animal groups. How do the arthropods speed up their evolution? To find out, we must travel to a microworld in our very own back gardens. This is a female cabbage aphid. In spring, she produces 100 offspring in just a week. Her offspring already have babies inside them, so this mother aphid is nurturing her granddaughters even before they're born. If all her descendants survived and bred, by the end of the summer, there'd be 1,560 billion trillion aphids. She is the ultimate breeding machine. This ability to reproduce prolifically is a real trait of the arthropods. Having lots of offspring and a quick life cycle increases the chances of genetic mutations occurring. And it's these mutations, however bizarre they seem, that increase the diversity of the gene pool. They can provide novel solutions to life's challenges. And ultimately lead to the evolution of new species. This means that arthropods have the ability to respond to opportunities and potentially fill niches faster than any other group of animals. This does give them a winning hand and provides another vital piece in our jigsaw. But it's not the whole story. We've seen how arthropods have been around for over 400 million years. How their winning body plan has stood them in good stead for all this time. We've seen how their size enables them to exploit microhabitats, and rapid reproduction has accelerated their evolution. All factors that have enabled them to fly, squelch, crawl, and scuttle into the myriad of forms we see today. But there's a twist in the tale. For the real key to their global success and diversity, we must look much closer to home. To really understand the diversity of the arthropods, we must examine how the presence of other arthropods affects them. Firstly, let's look at what can be achieved when arthropods work together. This colony of 40,000 bees is focused on a single task: the production of honey. They have a single queen who is the only bee to lay eggs. She can lay up to 2,000 in a single day. Each bee is roughly 1.5 centimeters in length. Their exoskeleton prevents them from growing any further in this adult form. But there's an animal over 1 million times its weight on the prowl. And he's after their honey. To lose their honey now would be fatal for their colony. It'll be their only source of food during the cold winter months. But this super society won't give up its hard-won prize without a fight. They attack and sting en masse. The first stinger releases an alarm pheromone that tells other bees to join in. The stings are barbed and hook into the skin of the bear. Each sting has its own nervous system and pumps venom into the attacker. Worker bees can only sting once, and then they die. It's the ultimate sacrifice for their colony. But the bees are victorious. The bear is repelled. Teamwork enables these bees to defend their precious honey against an intruder many thousands of times their own size. So working together can offer great advantages for defense. But it's one thing if your attacker is an animal like a black bear, and quite another if it's the environment itself. So how does working as a team allow you to live in one of the toughest environments in the world? To find out, we must travel 9,000 miles to the mangroves of Australia. They may look like a benign place to live, but they're actually packed with potentially deadly natural forces. Hot tropical sun, salty water, and the risk of drowning with every high tide. But in the mangrove mud is where these ants have chosen to build their nest. And teamwork has turned the tide to their advantage. Each high tide brings a fresh bounty of food that the ants can harvest. But this tide also brings the threat of drowning and the precious ant larvae being swept away. The ants have a cunning strategy. Every tide, these ants combine their forces and move the entire nest, larvae and all, into bell-shaped chambers they've built, which trap the air, keeping them safely above the waterline. Here they'll remain for several hours until the tide retreats. So cooperation between arthropods of the same species offers great advantages. But But we must look elsewhere for the ultimate key to the success of the arthropods. We must examine the idea that diversity stems not only from cooperation, but also exploitation. A female bolas spider. She's hunting for food, and she's got a pretty unique way of doing it. She spins a single thread of silk, thinner than a human hair, with a sticky globule on the end. And from special glands on her abdomen, she produces a pheromone to attract her prey. She waits. An approaching moth, but she hasn't quite got her eye in. She doesn't miss twice. So, arthropods affect their own diversity by providing a food source. And necessity being the mother of all invention, they've evolved some diverse and ingenious ways of catching each other. But the exploitative relationships between them don't end there. The Mojave Desert in California. This is a female blister beetle. She lays her eggs in the scorching sand of the desert a few centimeters below the surface. The perfect temperature for incubation. When the larvae hatch, they need to find food, and fast. En masse, they climb the nearest stem of grass and form a cluster. They release a pheromone identical to that produced by a female digger bee, and it isn't long before they're noticed. This is a male digger bee, and he's come to mate. But instead of an amorous reception, he's boarded by hundreds of larvae. Temporarily stunned, he falls to the floor, but quickly regains his composure and heads off in search of another female. While he's mating, his stowaways jump ship. The female then returns to her burrow, where she secreted pollen for her unhatched young. The blister beetle's larvae have reached safety and a ready supply of food. And when the pollen is finished, they'll consume the young of the digger bee. So we know that predation and exploitation lead to diversity. But there's one final factor that affects the success of the arthropods. One final vital key that unlocks a greater understanding of their world, and without which the array of life we see today would not be present. And it's diversity itself. Diversity breeds diversity. Arthropods are part of a constant arms race to outmaneuver and exploit each other, a process called coevolution. To see coevolution at work, we must head to a meadow in the Swiss Alps. This is a female Alcon blue butterfly. She lays her eggs on the gentian plant, and when they've hatched into caterpillars and eaten their fill, they drop onto the ground. Surrounded by foraging ants, you'd think they'd be at risk, but the ants dutifully collect them and transport them back to their nest, where they're cleaned and fed. The Alcon blue caterpillars have bewitched the ants. They emit chemicals that convince the ants they're one of their own larvae, even producing noises similar to those made by the queen ant to ensure the royal treatment. They've checked in to a 5-star ant hotel. But the ingenuity of this butterfly species presents an opportunity to any other species canny enough to exploit it. This is an Ichneumon wasp. Out of hundreds of ants' nests, she is able to detect the one that contains an Alcon butterfly caterpillar. The ant's response to any invader is to attack. But she releases a pheromone that deranges the ants. They begin to attack each other. And this buys her the time she needs. The wasp makes a beeline for the butterfly larvae, where she will lay her eggs. Job complete, she leaves the nest. The ant's nest, released from the wasp's spell, returns to normal. The caterpillars remain in the nest until the following summer, when they transform into a pupa, and after about a month, the adult butterflies emerge. But not every pupa contains an Alcon blue adult. A young Ichneumon wasp. The exploiter has become the exploited. Diversity has presented opportunity. The wasp has evolved to exploit the butterfly, who exploits the ants. Their lives are intricately linked. They have co-evolved. And this is the final vital key to the abundance and diversity of the arthropods, the process of co-evolution. All over the world, the opportunities presented by other arthropods are creating the pressure to innovate and evolve. No doubt this diversity wouldn't exist if it weren't for that winning body plan. Small size, ability to reproduce, work cooperatively, and finally, predate and exploit each other. But it's this snowballing effect of diversity itself that raises arthropods onto a whole new level. The arthropods have lived, survived, and thrived on Earth for 400 million years. Through extreme climate change, volcanic events, ice ages, and the extinction of the dinosaurs. fact, arthropods have survived and thrived when 99.9% of all species that ever lived have become extinct. They are the most successful and diverse group of animals to have ever lived.
Defying the odds on BBC4, groundbreaking surgery with the Horizon Guide to Transplants. Mend Me next. And comedy later with Season 2 of Parks and Recreation. A double bill kicks it off at 10 o'clock.